Welcome to McDougall, the show that gives you hope when you've given up on medicine. Hello, I'm Wayne Judd. And now, here's Dr. John. I'm waiting for approval. There again.
Good to do another show with you.
It is.
I'm going to stretch you a little bit.
Okay, what are
I'm
we
going
doing?
to challenge one of the most sacred things in medicine in this country.
Why am I not surprised?
I know it's going to upset a lot of people, but I think I can make a case, and certainly I hope that everybody's listening. And that is, I want to challenge mammography, the way it's used in this country today and the way it's oversold. You know, the truth of the matter is that breast self-examination, or a doctor examining a woman's breasts, has never been shown to reduce the chance of a woman dying. And all well-read doctors realize this. And so the last hope for a woman is to have this X-ray technique called a mammogram. And there is some hope there, but the sad thing is, Wayne, it's been oversold.
But now, yes, you're right. My wife does this every year. She's supposed to stop doing it?
74% of women in this country get mammograms, or have had at least one mammogram. And some of the recommendations are to get it every year. If your wife is in the age group of 50 to 69, then there is some advantage to it.
So it should be done for her?
Well, wait a minute. I said there's some advantage.
Okay.
Now, there have been 7 major studies done on testing mammography, where they've taken one group of women and they haven't given them the test, and they've taken another group and they have given the mammography to them at different intervals, and they've compared the survival. Out of those 7 studies, only 2 have shown significant survival advantages. The other 5, no advantage at all.
What about...
Sad, as far as a statistical benefit, they haven't shown it. And you know, it's sad to say your wife and the rest of the women in this country have been advertised, the 2 that show a reduction in mortality. But they're the ones that didn't show the reduction, they're not told to the patient.
Am I missing something? What about early detection, John?
Oh, we have to get to the basics. And let me tell you the misnomer in early detection. And we have to kind of follow me carefully here, because if you understand the natural history of this disease, you understand why early detection is really a fallacy. One cell leads the way as far as cancer. One cell in the breast turns from normal to a cancer cell, and to be a cancer cell, you act unsociably. You divide at your own free will. You don't divide under special circumstances that are allowed. You just double and double and double and double.
And they eat up the other...
They don't eat anything. They just double and push other cells away. The average doubling rate is every 100 days. That's 3.5 months. So you've got 1 cancer cell in the breast. 3.5 months later, you have 2 cancer cells in the breast.
All right. 3.5
months later, 100 days later, you got 4 cancer cells. Now you're out at a year, you've got, say, 12 cancer cells in the breast. You've had cancer for a year.
And you're going to say we can't detect that, so why
12
try?
cancer cells. A single breast contains 100 billion cells. How could you ever detect 12 cells? You continue the doubling, and finally, at 6 years, you've got a tumor the size of a tip of a pencil, the size of a period on a paper, and you've had cancer 6 years, and it's 1 million cells, and Wayne, by that time, it's spread through the entire body if it's truly cancer in almost every case. You continue the doubling, and finally, at 10 years, you've got a tumor the size of an eraser. It's 1 billion cells in content, and now you can find it. By mammography, you can find it maybe half that size, or when it's 9 years old on the average. Early detection, a 9-year-old disease?
Well, I can't argue with your case you've made, but I have to say that, I mean, I've heard stories forever that women are saved by earlier detection.
You've heard stories because...
I've written ads for hospitals in one of my careers.
That's the point, is this is big business.
Mercy.
And this is big business. Now, this is a late detected disease by mammography, and that's why the benefits are limited at best. And people need to know this. Now, just think about it. The recommendations for mammography in women under the age of 50 have changed over the last few months. Now, it's not recommended. And we've admitted the fact.
That's true.
All right.
That's true.
And women over the age of 69, it's never been shown to be of benefit. Just in that small category there, between 50 and 69, 2 of the 7 studies show statistically significant benefit. Hey, well, that would be tough to make a real forceful ad to encourage women to save themselves.
On those terms, it certainly would.
Well, let me leave you with a positive message. I know this has been one of hopes and dreams that have been shattered. There is a positive message. You can win the war on cancer, but you must do it by prevention. And the rich Western diet causes breast cancer. Armed with that information, you can save your loved ones from breast cancer and other very serious diseases. I'm Dr. John McDougall, and we'll be right back.
Give your children a brighter future. Watch Hello Channel.
And welcome back. Our usual guests are experts in the field of science and medicine, but this time I want to talk to you with some of my favorite people, and that's the folks who've come to the studio to participate in the show. I'd like to hear about your questions and your comments.
We have a very interesting question from a young man right here, John.
As a male, I was wondering if I can get breast cancer.
Men get breast cancer, but they only get it at a rate of 100 times less than women, and that has to do with female hormones, estrogens, and you know, diet is tied to your hormones. When you eat a rich diet, it raises your estrogen level. In the case of men, it raises testosterone levels, and the consequence is overstimulation of your organs. Women get breast cancer, fibrocystic breast disease, they get excess menstrual bleeding, and they also get fibroids of the uterus. Men get enlarged prostate, and also men get prostate cancer as a consequence of that overstimulation due to the wrong kinds of food.
Another question over here.
Actually, I have 3 questions, and they're not related. They're just 3 questions that have
Well, we'll
bothered
see how
me.
my memory is today.
Oh, mine too. The first one is, I guess this is a pretty typical question. I'm trying to lose weight. I joined a gym back in March, and I was faithful. I went 5 days a week, roughly 2 hours, because at the time I'm working part-time, and I had the time. So I was spending about 20 to 30 minutes on the weights, which they showed me, and then the rest of that time on the aerobics, mainly the treadmill. And I felt good, I have to admit, I felt healthy and all that, and I was eating better. I was eating less fats, but I really didn't lose any weight.
Well, let me answer that question for you before we go on to the other 2. You know, even famous athletes, for example, Carl Lewis, the world's fastest man, he writes in Runner's World, August of 1992, how he was fat. And he couldn't find a diet that would allow him to perform and lose weight at the same time. Then he talks about in this interview how he met Dr. John McDougall in Minneapolis in 1990. I shared with him the McDougall program, and he's never had a better time in his athletic career, and he's never had a problem with his weight since. He got so excited he sent Carol Lewis, his sister, who's a track star, to our program at St. Helena Hospital, and now half the Santa Monica track team is on the McDougall program because they're fat and they need better performance. Now, I tell you that story because, of course, we're proud that we've influenced many notable people, but I tell you that story because if Carl Lewis, Carol Lewis, and other track stars who get paid to exercise all day long can't stay trim on the American diet, what chance do you and I have? It's a virtual impossibility. You have to change the diet. The diet is, the American diet is so loaded in fat and calories that almost as hard as you work, it doesn't seem to make any difference, or not the difference you would expect anyways. Not that exercise isn't important, it really is.
Okay, the other question, is, and actually now can I have a side question, is just I'm what they call the pear shape. If I lose my
You're
fat...
only pear shape because of what you've
Okay,
eaten.
I've heard people say you'll never change that. So you're saying no. Okay, good.
That's
I want to have
You'll lose
hope.
the weight. And there's no such thing as spot reduction either. It goes over the whole body, the whole pear or the whole apple, it goes.
Okay, all right, this is another one now. I'm 33, I have no children, and I don't see any in the foreseeable future at this point in my life. And I had heard that statistics show that women who don't have children have a much higher percentage of cancer, I think specifically breast cancer.
Specifically breast cancer. And some of the theories include the fact that when you get pregnant, you have a weaker estrogen in your body, and as a consequence, that is less stimulation of the breast. But I think a more important theory is the fact that women who don't have children, who are more career women, often eat a richer diet in our society. And women who are busy with kids and may have less money to spend on all that rich food, and as a consequence, they have less breast cancer. You see that worldwide also. You see in countries where women have lots of babies, which are Asian and African countries, they have much less breast cancer. I don't think it's because they have lots of babies necessarily. It's because they also eat a very good diet. And so it's the diet you need to concentrate on. I wouldn't encourage you to have a family just to prevent breast cancer.
Okay, then the last one is a minor problem. I would never go to a doctor for it because it's nothing I'm going to die from. It's just very annoying. I have an itch on my back, like between my ribs here. It's embarrassing to scratch it in public, obviously. And then right here on my leg, it's just a chronic itch. I could scratch it all day long and I still itch in those spots.
Well, I think that's 4 questions. But what I'll have to do is send you to a dermatologist because that's too specific and complex. Yeah.
All right, we have another question. Thank you, Dr. McDougall.
What is the situation concerning calcium for osteoporosis in place of estrogen? And does it work as well? And can you take too much calcium?
Fortunately, you cannot take too much calcium because the intestinal tract will block it out and prevent that calcium from getting in. If calcium really got into your body, what would happen is we would calcify our soft tissues like our kidneys and we would die. But the gut blocks it out. The calcium business, as far as osteoporosis is concerned, has a little bit of truth to it, but it's not the message that you really need to gain good health. Calcium, as a matter of fact, is not the nutrient that causes osteoporosis or lack of. The nutrient that causes osteoporosis is excess protein, particularly excess animal protein. We could do a whole show on this, but just let me leave you with this thought. When you look around the world, the countries that consume the least calcium, like your Asian and African countries, have the least incidence of osteoporosis, the least hip fractures, and where people consume more and more calcium, like the United States, New Zealand, Finland, Sweden, they also have more and more hip fractures or osteoporosis because calcium has little to do with the disease. The real issue here is excess animal protein. And that's a challenging question, and a lot of people ask that, and it's one that people would like to have answered another way because people want to hear the solution to strong bones is one more slice of pepperoni pizza. They don't want to have to hear that they have to limit their protein intake. Thank you very much for that great question. We'll be back in a moment.
Just say.
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 Just say. Hello.
When I was about 6 years old, I remember taking something that didn't belong to me. Looking back on that day, it would have been very easy for my dad to lecture me and hope I never did it again. Whatever I took wasn't worth much, but the lesson I learned was worth everything.
Life's most important lessons are best learned in the home. A message from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And welcome back. We're taking some fantastic questions from our audience, and I know they're questions that you have on your mind. And so, Wayne, what have we got next?
Yes, we have a gentleman with a question right here.
Well, I was wondering about cholesterol problem. I have a sort of a high cholesterol, and I was concerned about different foods I was eating, like peanut butter, avocado. Are they particularly cholesterol or just fat? Or that's
There's
one of my
no cholesterol in any plant product. That makes it real simple. No cholesterol, and almost all plants lower your cholesterol except for coconut, and cocoa may raise your cholesterol. But you can pretty much figure if you're going to eat from the plant kingdom, your cholesterol is going to be decreased. Only animal products contain cholesterol. So those are a good general rule for you. Those high-fat foods you mentioned, the nuts and the avocados and olives and soybean products, they may make you fat and cause other health problems, but raising your cholesterol is not one of them.
Here's another question for you, John.
Doctor, is it possible to overdose on amino acids? And if so, what effect does that have on either the kidneys or the liver?
Absolutely. It's very possible to overdose on amino acids. Think about it. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and so they are necessary. But if you take in excess, remember they're acids, amino acids. And those acids go into the body when you eat a high-protein diet, and they make the body acidic. The body has to buffer that acid, and it does it by dissolving the bones, and the phosphorus from the bones complex with the acid and neutralize it. As a consequence, you end up dissolving your bones and making them weak. So you want to not take excess amino acids, and likewise you want to keep your protein, particularly animal protein, down in your diet to keep your bones strong.
Here's another question.
I'd like to know if you know if bilberry will improve your vision.
Is this an herb, bilberry?
Yes, it is.
I don't know whether it will or won't. There are lots of very important herbal products, and we've had experts on this show on herbal medicine. We've also had experts on this show in terms of vision and its relationship to diet and lifestyle. So I want to leave you with the thought that there's a tremendous amount you can do to preserve your eyesight and even to make it keener, but we'll have to wait till our experts come on and tell you about those subjects.
As a retired insurance man, I was wondering people coming to you how Medicare and the other health insurance is covered.
Well, I'm not in the actual practice of medicine, but as a board-certified internist, when I was in the practice of medicine, they covered me just like any other doctor. The difference is I had a hard time making a living because I took the time to talk to you. It would take me between a half an hour and an hour to see a patient, whereas when I was pushing drugs, which I used to do many years back, I could see 50 to 100 people a day, and the insurance companies paid the same per patient, whether I talked to them or just wrote them a prescription and threw them out.
Okay, over on this side.
Two questions, doctor. One, I've had stainless steel in my mouth for many years with bridge work. I'm unfortunately going to have to go to dentures. What should I ask the doctor to make them out of?
Well, that's a question that I wish Dr. Hal Huggins was still here to answer. We've had a guest on this show, Dr. Huggins, who believes that the metal in your mouth causes serious illness. And certainly, no one could argue with the point that certain metals in the mouth must be toxic, like the mercury that's in amalgams. The concern of nickel and stainless steel is one that everybody should pay attention to. What I would ask you to do is call our show, get the number for Dr. Hal Huggins, give the Institute a call, and they'll give you a reference to an expert that can really take care of that. This show is a tremendous reserve for information. If we don't know the answer, we'll get you to somebody who does.
I think he has a second question as well.
The question, in my work, I speak a lot. I have to use my voice. My mouth is dry much of the time recently. I've been checked for diabetes. I have no problem medically that causes it. Anything you can suggest?
Do you take medications that might cause dry mouth?
Minor medication, yes.
Well, medications often do. For example, antidepressants cause terrible dry mouth. Beta blockers can cause people to have problems with dry mouth. So you want to think about medication. The other possibility is there are diseases that attack the salivary glands and also the tear glands, and these diseases can shut off production of these important moisturizing areas, and so that might be a problem. I would see a rheumatologist about that and see if you might have that difficulty.
We have another question over here from this young man.
What does ginkgo biloba do?
Well, how about ginkgo biloba?
Yeah, that.
Ginkgo biloba is an herbal medication that I've had many of my guests talk about on shows, and ginkgo biloba has been said to improve circulation. And I think it's important to look at these kinds of herbal products. In Europe, it's been studied extensively, and I've reviewed the scientific literature on it and found it to be effective. But don't forget, the best thing you can do for your circulation is to eat a healthy diet. A high-fat diet, whether it's high in vegetable fat or animal fat, will get through the gut into the bloodstream, coat your blood cells, and make your blood cells stick together and clump. And in studies done where they feed fat to patients, comparing the blood before the meal and after the meal, there's a 20% drop in oxygen content of the blood just by feeding the fat.
We have a follow-up question from Bill.
Hi, I was wondering, as an athlete, what kind of diet could I use?
You want to eat the diet that athletes around the world are eating to win. And you've heard about it, loading on carbohydrates. That's what you want to do. But you don't want to just load on carbohydrates just before the event. You want to load on carbohydrates for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You want to be full of those carbohydrates because they'll give you the best circulation, just like I told you about. Those carbohydrates also provide you with the energy you need to win the long race so you don't hit the wall in your endurance activities. And so that's the way to eat to be the best kind of athlete. And the side benefit is you'll also be the healthiest athlete. It's great to talk to the people in our audience. You've got wonderful questions. We're going to do this again. That was a lot of fun, Wayne.
It was a lot of fun.
I'm glad we had a chance to do that.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. I want to thank you very much. We'll be back in just a moment.
Learn English and have fun.
Ooh, I like that.
That's okay. And welcome back. Now, Wayne, you and I have been talking about the issues of medicine. We've been talking about dietary change and so on.
That's right.
Have I been making any influence on you, or the guests and the experts? Are we changing the way Wayne Judd thinks about things?
Well, now you're putting me on the spot, John. I thought that was my job, but it's a valid question. It's a fair question, and I'd like to respond to that question. I've got to tell you, some of the diet business that you're talking about is a little tricky. Just the simple business, say, of eating out. How can I eat out and enjoy it?
So you're finding this interesting, but you're not finding it practical.
Well, for example, I think you've made a case in the shows we've done together that.
But you ought to be making change.
Well, that I ought to be making change. And
Go ahead and admit it. You don't have to be so shy about it. You ought to be making changes.
You're probably right.
All right, so you want me to make it so darn easy for you that you can't possibly
You've already answered part of the question, John. You've said that as long as we can season our foods and we can make them, we can make good food taste as good as the bad food tastes.
Right, well,
I accept that, but not in a restaurant. They don't know how to do it, John.
Well, that's not true. What we have to learn how to do is to ask. That's the most important thing when you go to a restaurant.
Okay,
You
give
gotta
me an
learn how-
example. Let's role play this.
All
Sir,
right.
what would you like today?
I'd like to take you out. I would like to, well, first of all, we have to pick a place. I'd like
All
to
right.
take you out to a Mexican restaurant.
Okay.
And I'm going to find one that makes whole beans, maybe even black beans,
Sounds
and their
good.
burritos. And we're going to walk in there and we're going to order a bean burrito.
All right.
Or a tostada made with a soft corn tortilla shell, not a fried shell.
Well, oh, okay.
We're going to
All right.
order the whole beans, which are going to be made without oil. We can ask them. They don't make them with oil most of the time, but you got to ask.
Is that typical in Mexican restaurants? Can I do this
When they
in
have
most
whole
of them?
beans, not when they're refried now.
Okay.
Whole beans. And we're going to order lettuce and tomatoes and a salsa sauce over the top, and we're going to really enjoy
Okay,
it.
now stop. I like refried beans. Why can't I have those?
Because they're refried in either lard or vegetable oil, and you don't want to do that. All right,
that
let's go.
wouldn't be-
Let's go
okay.
Italian. We'll go
All
to
right.
an Italian restaurant, and we're going to order pasta, angel hair pasta, and we're going to tell them we want a marinara sauce made
Okay.
without oil.
All right.
And if they can't do that, we're going to tell the chef, look, I know you're really creative. I heard lots about this restaurant. You guys are fantastic. Your reputation is. So what I'd like you to do is just cook me up without oil, a mixture of tomatoes and various kinds of vegetables, and put it over that pasta.
How about fettuccine? Can I?
The dairy. You don't want to do that. I mean,
Okay, that's out too.
Fattening, high cholesterol, and so on.
I see. Well, I guess I do have some unlearning
Asian
to do yet.
restaurants, let's pick an Asian. What about
Okay.
a Chinese restaurant?
But I heard recently that Chinese food, the way Americans eat it, is just as bad as any other kind of
The
food.
way
And I
American-
believed all my life
it's
Chinese food.
because the people that run the Chinese restaurants think Americans like to have rich, deadly food. And the truth of the matter is Americans are changing. And so let's go to that Chinese restaurant. Let's order rice. Now, if you order brown rice, you'll get white rice with soy sauce, so don't bother with that.
Oh, really?
All you want is rice, lots of rice, and you want to tell them you want a, say, a monk's dish. Or, and what you get is something cooked with a ginger sauce. Tell them to leave the oil out, the MSG, and the meats.
Right.
I just gave you 3 different ways to eat.
Well, it sounds like it might be a possibility.
It's endless, but you've got to ask. You can go to sandwich shops. You have sandwiches made with lettuce, tomatoes, a little mustard. You can go to all kinds of
Mustard's okay?
And the important, use a small amount. It's
Oh, okay.
a little bit of oil.
I'm
But
beginning
the
to distrust everything. I'm sorry, John. I mean,
Well,
but, but I know it's good news. I know this is all good news. It's just a matter of
It's
how
getting
to...
control. It's getting
how to-
information and deciding what's going to happen in your future, and only with good information can you do that. And you have to respond to that information and start controlling your environment around you, and then you get the good looks that you deserve. You get the good health you deserve. And it's just a matter of getting it straightened out for you and also for our viewing audience. It's a matter of getting that information and getting the truth and applying it. And
Well,
they'll
sounds
see
good.
it works.
Sounds good. Don't give up on me, John. We'll keep working on
No, I
this.
won't give up on you ever.
Doesn't sound like it.
It just takes a little time. Until next time, stay healthy and be happy. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.